Hey friends, welcome to my channel. For those of you that are new to the channel, I think you're going to find that we do things a little differently here. One of the first things to go out the window is any type of formality of any kind. Don't really believe in that around here. So I was just watching like some news type bullshit, and they're talking about how they just called off the search for that missing Malaysia plane. Now, I mean, all you really got to do is call up John B. Wells or George Norrie, and they'll tell you that aliens took that plane. Because aliens did everything. Aliens seeded mankind here on the world. Aliens taught us how to build pyramids. Aliens taught us how to grow corn. It was all aliens. Couldn't have possibly been man. But I'm not going to talk about that in this video. I'm calling up out on the Bermuda Triangle. I want to talk about the Bermuda Triangle because the missing Malaysia plane just kind of made me think of it. It kind of just like reminded me a little bit that I wanted to talk about this, because I have had some people who are Globers tried to use like the globe like well, explain the Bermuda Triangle. See, what they think the Bermuda Triangle is some people think, Globers especially, they'll say that they think it's like a ley line or some sort of a ley line or something on that idea that goes through the world, and because of the enormous weight of the ocean on either side of the planet or whatever, they have that there's these magnetic anomalies that happen. It's pretty clever, but I'm pretty sure it's all nonsense. This is what myself and a lot of us think that is the Bermuda Triangle. That is. Okay, remember we were missing a Malaysia plane, and basically when the plane basically just disappeared from the radar, and they couldn't call in. They lost all communications with the plane. Now that sounds, that shouldn't happen, but it seems to happen pretty often. That shouldn't happen if you got satellites up there tracking around above your heads. That is why we developed the satellites, isn't it? That's because our ground-based stuff was just so inferior, because we couldn't shoot signals that far because they would shoot off into space, right? So we had to have something up there to kind of reroute the signal around the planet. Another cleverly put together bullshit lie. So if those things existed, then planes like the Malaysia plane would have never went lost. If anything, they'd at least been able to tell where it went down. There's none of that. That thing just like disappeared. Yet people are able to track space junk. I heard some nonsense one day that some asshole up on that ISS space station supposedly lost a backpack-sized tool bag, right? He lost the tool bag. So they said that they basically tracked it because the thing was in front of the ISS, just steadily losing altitude, and eventually it burned up in the atmosphere. But of course they tracked that and 8,000 other pieces of space junk that's up there cruising around at 17,000 miles an hour. Do you know how badass of a dude you'd have to be to throw on a fucking spacesuit and go jump in a tin can and go cruise around up there, right around the same place where all that stuff's supposedly zipping by at 17,000 miles an hour? That's fucking asinine. Makes no sense at all. Who would do that? Nobody would do that. I don't care how tough you are. 17,000 mile piece of anything zipping through your spaceship's gonna ruin your day. Pretty much take the starch right out of you. Don't care how tough you are. But that being said, it's all ground based. So we know it's all ground based. We know that. We know there's cables that go underneath the ocean that link the continents together. And admittedly, on the news not too long ago, maybe a half a year ago, there was a Russian submarine that supposedly we were all concerned with, and we were worried that they were going to maybe try to do something to our telecommunications. And right on the news, they said that 90% of our internet and communications are all underground sea cables. So if you got underground sea cables that handle 90% of your workload, what the hell you got satellites up there floating around for? And if you have both of those things, then you should never, ever, ever, ever be out of contact with anybody. There just shouldn't be a reason why that should ever happen. But it does, and it happens all the time. The Bermuda Triangle. Here's our imaginary globe. Here's our imaginary equator on the imaginary globe. The lines of longitude on this globe, as soon as they get past the equator, they start to converge back in on each other. So they should be getting closer and closer. That's how you'd know where the hell you were going and where you'd wind up. I have here basically a representation of our flat plane, with this being the equator, this being our North Pole. Both of these, one's the Bermuda Triangle, and one could represent the other side of the globe where they seem to have these same problems. They're both in the same place, laterally. You know what I mean? Latitude. They're both in the same area of the latitude line. So if you look where once you approach the equator, your lines of longitude start to go away from each other versus converging in on each other like they would on a ball. So obviously it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And it's in a triangle shape. You know, so what happens? These guys get off their course for one reason or another, and a lot of pilots and sea captains will tell you that southern navigation south of the equator is tricky. Why should it be tricky? It shouldn't be tricky at all unless it's different than what is said. You know, so what happens? You're in a plane, you're heading on a longitude line, and for one reason or another, you get off your course a little bit. You want to turn around. You want to, you know what I mean, reconfigure your course. Wind up off course a little bit, and you say, hey, what the hell? I should be way over here. Why am I, you know, and all of a sudden you really don't know where you are. Then you run out of gas. You've already run out of communication. And people talk about that too. They start losing their communication. You know, when they talk about the instruments going crazy and spinning and stuff, I think that may just have to do with the equator. I think that really might actually just have to do with whatever resonance is happening at the equator. You know, we don't know. We don't know all the answers, but I think part of it is communication is one of the first things to go, which you should have plenty of communication if there's satellites above your head. So yeah, it's just something that I've been thinking about, and I don't know. I mean, it still doesn't explain lots of things where, you know, like lots of boats supposedly go down in that area, and planes supposedly go down. I mean, the planes can partially be explained just by, like I said, maybe there is a magnetic anomaly that makes your instruments go crazy for a little while. So when that happens, it puts you in a state of confusion, and you're trying to reconfigure where you are, and you get lost. You think you're somewhere, and you're somewhere else, and you're away from everything. You're away from all the communication. You're not able to make communication, you know, because you're not close to it. You're not close to the ground-based systems that we've been using for a long, long time that work just fine. You can triangulate that's what GPS is just triangulation. It's all it is. A, B, and C. Nothing more. There are no satellites. We would see them on some of these spacewalks. Leave some comments below. Peace.